Welcome to Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show where we discuss all things political, bringing you the top stories locally, nationally, and from around the world. I'm Ruben Abati, and Thisday Live begins now. Coming up in the next hour, in the aftermath of the #EndSARS protest, the clamor for police rehabilitation and welfare heightens. What can be done differently? And the United States of America holds up Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala'S appointment as WTO Director General. Race now hinges on the U.S. election. In the wake of the EndSARS protest to demand the disbandment of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, as well as other reforms in the Nigerian police force, what can be termed as a volcanic eruption further heightened the call for a holistic rehabilitation of the police force. According to reports, no fewer than 20 police stations and outposts were burnt by some vandals who hijacked the #EndSARS protest in different parts of the country. More so, the apprehension in police circles was worsened by the number of escaped detained suspects in various cells, as some stations were completely razed. It was gathered that in most of the stations, many of the detained suspects, including hardened criminals, were released, while arms and ammunition were carted away. Nonetheless, there are reports that detectives already swung into action and have made remarkable progress in recovering all the missing items, including the weapons. Now, the Inspector General of Police, Muhammad Adamu, on Friday, charged the personnel of the force going forward to protect themselves in cases of assault at their respective duty posts. IGP Muhammad Adamu, while addressing his men at the Federal Capital Territory Command, having returned from an assessment tour to various police facilities destroyed by vandals during the EndSARS protest, appealed to his men to return to their duty posts. According to him, the #EndSARS protesters were out to demoralize police personnel, adding that the government and the Nigeria Police Force will soon roll out a welfare package for them. Also, President Muhammadu Buhari assured 7 police personnel of federal government's commitment to improve their livelihood. Well, this evening on Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show, our guest is Lawrence Alobi, former FCT Police Commissioner, who now joins us as we discuss police welfare and what needs to be done to boost the morale of policemen and women in Nigeria. We will also look at how funds and resources must be deployed towards the repair and rehabilitation of police stations and barracks nationwide that were ransacked as a result of the #EndSARS protest. Good evening, Mr. Alobi, and thank you very much for joining us on Thisday Live, this Sunday talk show. Well, the straightforward question is as follows.
Thank you for having me too.
Thank you for joining us. The straightforward question is as follows. After the protests and the incident of October 20, 2020, we saw the attack on police formations, the death of policemen, and subsequently how vehicles were also destroyed. And the Inspector General of Police, in response to this, has started a nationwide tour of police formations to boost the morale of the personnel. And of course, state governors in different parts of the country have also been visiting police formations to reassure policemen, to provide scholarships for the children of the dead. But the main issue remains, how do we reform and transform the Nigeria Police Force, which, by the way, was the number 5 demand in the 5-for-5 demands put before the federal government by the Nigerian youths. So what, in your opinion, as a retired commissioner of police, what form should this reform or the boosting of morale take?
Yeah, thank you very much. First and foremost, gratitude is a virtue, and ingratitude is a serious sin. Nigerians should be grateful to Nigerian Police Force. From what has happened, those Nigerians who did that have not shown gratitude to the Nigerian Police Force, who are there to hold, to provide law and order, maintain law and order, protect life and property. You see, nations are built on law and order, and law has no meaning, has no value to man. if those laws are not enforced. The jurisprudential value of law is predicated on its enforcement. And the police is the one that provides law and order. For citizens to go about the lawfully deeds without threat or intimidation. The police are protecting life and property. In life, there are two things that every human being wants that treasured highly. Their life and their property. And the police protect life and property. No government can exist without law and order. And the police provide law and order for the government to exist and to function effectively. Section 24E of the Constitution provides that it's the constitutional duty of every Nigerian citizen to assist the agency in maintaining law and order. By the action what they've meted on policemen are being gruesome murder of policemen, where the policemen heads are being macheted and killed, properties looted and so forth. Policemen who are there to serve the society. The society now is killing policemen and doing this. Like I said, the society is ungrateful to the Nigerian police force. I think the Nigerians owe a sense of gratitude to the Nigerian police force who have sacrificed their life. No policeman serves less than 12 hours in a day. He's not being paid extra one kobo for that 12 extra hours he serves. So the actions of this, what has happened to police, is not to demoralize the men. But I'm so grateful to the IG for his proactive action, his timely intervention to boost confidence building, and boost the morale of the men. Because, like Maslow in Theory of Motivation talked about, he postulated that the hierarchy of needs, physiological need, social need, esteem need, self-actualization. Now the society needs to actually show to the police that they appreciate them. Those who are burning police stations, killing policemen, they are enemies of the society. Crime is a transgression against the society and the people. Police are not protecting law for themselves, protecting law and order for the benefit of the citizens. The properties and life they are protecting, the benefit of the citizens. The citizens are the prime beneficiary of a safe and secure environment. And who provides that? The police. The police is the principal agency in terms of internal security. Even in the US, where we borrowed our democracy from, there's an act of parliament that excludes the military from taking part in policing and law and internal security. But Section 217 of the Constitution provides that the military can come and aid the police whenever situation is above the magnitude of the police action. So one, it's first and foremost, gratitude is important. The side Nigerians should appreciate the police and encourage them. Even words of mouth. So today the police is the most tongue-lashed institution in the country. Look at, for instance, only weekends some few governors have come to appreciate, to show empathy on the police. All the people are keeping silence. Where is Amnesty International? Our policemen, they're not human beings. They don't deserve right to their life. They don't right to their properties. They don't deserve right to go about the lawful duty without intimidation. What is Amnesty International? Where is all the stakeholders? What are MBAs? What are they? I've not seen any print media, editorial and print media, to to condemn this action and say, look, the police need to be supported. No editorial. I'm not seeing any comment on electronic media, news commentary on electronic media. This is why? Because police has no voice. It's unfortunate that Nigerians don't appreciate the service of the police. Police in this country are a dedicated institution in this country. We don't plan coup. We don't go on strike. We're always there to serve the country. But the country, rather than appreciating us, is not turning against the police. Are we saying that those people who have been killed, those 22 policemen who have been killed, those who have been burned, properties damaged, are they members of the SARS? Even if they're members of the SARS, are they being found guilty of the act? Are they culpable for any acts of extrajudicial killing or brutality or extortion? Why should this happen? This is an invitation to anarchy. It's unfortunate that this is in the whole world. I've not seen. I have researched extensively in policing and law enforcement. I've not seen where people do this to their police force. It's a shame.
Well, Mr. Alobi, Mr. Alobi, sorry to interrupt you. I mean, I can assure you that here on Arise News, we have been focusing on the interest of the police, the welfare of the police. We have not dropped the ball in that regard. But I'd asked you, what kind of morale boosting...
Thank you very much.
Yes, what kind of morale boosting measures should be adopted by both the police and the government? I bring this up because when the Inspector General of Police was addressing his men at the Federal Capital Territory, he told them that, look, you must be prepared to defend yourself. If anybody assaults you or attacks you, you must fight back. Is that a good strategy as a way of building the morale of men who are supposed to be the friends of the people?
It's a self-preservation is first natural instinct. Even the ant, even you see a snail, when a snail is moving, if it moves, it has no eyes, its eyes is through feeling. If it touches an object, it's going back to its shell. So confidence building is what the IG is doing. And it's self-preservation. The police have code of ethics. First Order 237 provides that when to use their firearms. Even the Constitution provides that. When your life is in danger, and there's no way we can save your life, you have a right to use your firearms. And even another person's life is in danger, and the way you can save that person from being killed, you have the right to use your firearms. It's instant law. It's provided in our instant laws. And then again, you have to be alive to protect others. Police have to be alive to maintain law and order. So I think what the IG is doing, like I said, is very timely, commendable, and strategic. You have to be confidence building, to reassure them that yes, you're not being abandoned, you're not being neglected. The country is for you. The country appreciates you. The force appreciates you. Keep on doing the good work. Don't feel disillusioned. Don't feel demoralized. The government is working to boost your morale. So these are all, like I talk about Maslow's theory of motivation. Physiological needs, how the police barracks, how are the offices, social needs, economic needs, what is their pay point? If I tell you how much we saw in the video where 550 naira was used to feed a police recruit on training, 50 naira. I cannot even feed a hand. And that some person recruit go about physical training and so forth. Look at sometimes go China Television some years back when I saw the police culture of the police college in Ikeja, and here we are serving in society. So physiological need, barracks, accommodation, the welfare, good services. When I was a junior officer, when I'm traveling out of my station, I'm being paid what they call disturbance allowance, hardline allowance, inconvenience allowance. It doesn't exist any longer. When we are going out for duty, we are giving dry ration. It doesn't exist any longer. We are transferred out, giving 28 days allowance for being out of your station. It doesn't exist any longer because no funds are being provided. Why? Because it's the police. So these are all, the government knows, the police have already provided their needs. Their needs that will meet their standard. The needs, what now is that, but sometimes somebody in the ministry will say, no, you don't need a council. We go to the National Assembly, so council. I wanted my IG to the National Assembly. I said, if the National Assembly failed to make laws that will add value to life to good policing, there is a service to the country. Because they have to make laws that will motivate, bring about good policing. Because the citizens are the ones who enjoy good policing, effective policing. And when the government supports the police and citizens support the police will perform better through capacity building training. Adequate funds are provided for training, capacity building training, equipment. Policing today is knowledge-driven and technically based. You cannot acquire technology with bare hands. You cannot acquire knowledge without training. So all this is capital intensive. Policing is just like it's not like other. It's capital intensive. So motivation, you have to be holistic. Their welfare, the motivation like IG is doing now. Tongue lashing it demoralizes. Let me give you an example, simple analogy. If you have a dog in your house, that dog, you take care of it, feed it well, give it medical attention, show some emotion, give it some love. When a dog sees you, he wags his tail, he welcomes you, welcome my dad, welcome my father. But when you say dog, anytime the dog is clap with a stick, you stab the dog. If you see the dog, kill it. When the dog sees you, say, sees you as an enemy. So the society has been very, very hostile to the police. And in turn, life is based on the principle of reciprocity. Love begets love. The police have been so dehumanized. They are so brutalized. They are being deprived of. Look at now, like I said earlier, policemen are being killed. Where is Amnesty International? Where are all the stakeholders?
Well,
and
Mr. Alobi,
the first level of judicial process.
Mr. Alobi,
so
if I may come in here again.
Motivation starts from what appreciating the effort of the police.
Well, if I may come in here again.
Yes.
If you look at the 5 demands, if you look at the 5 demands of the End SARS protesters, demand 4 was about a call for psychological reorientation of members of End SARS that will have been disbanded and to ensure that they are properly rehabilitated. Demand 5 talked about the welfare of the police. They need to increase the salary of the police and make sure that they are given an enabling environment for them to be able to discharge their constitutional responsibilities. Now, what, in your opinion, went wrong? Because the NSAS protest, yes, may have been against police brutality, but it was peaceful. And the police have also been accused of aggravating the situation, according to one detailed report by, I think it's Premium Times, providing eyewitness accounts and raw evidence of how the police, along with the soldiers, aggravated the situation.
I don't agree with that. You see, the point is that some of them are speaking based on ignorance. You see, the policeman, whenever in any riot situation, we are trained to crowd control, to manage public protests and civil protests and demonstration. And it's only, you remember somebody called some time ago in Abuja, where Deputy Commissioner of Police was even trying to pacify some protesters. He was killed. Umar, DCP owner in Abuja. He was trying to use persuasion, whether it's applying the principle of stick and carrot, to persuade them. So please, he was murdered. What has happened? Who has said anything about it? He's gone. Family are going suffering. So the point is that we should be civilized in our actions. Let us appreciate our police. The government should also appreciate that the government has a responsibility to ensure that the police is well funded. Not reformation, not based on, it is international standard. Police should give international, in other climes, police are an elitist profession. Other climes, but here, police are seen as downtrodden. So, because we have been rubbish right from the military, the long military rule tour has helped a lot to destroy the police. So I think now we're in a democracy. Let our leaders understand the value of policing. They understand that without policing, no democracy can be sustained. Without policing, our national stability can also be threatened. Our international security will be threatened. The police is the first institution of the government that is closer to the people. And it can mirror the government through mirroring the police. So the government should reflect itself and making the police one of its best it has in the country by motivating it, supporting it, encouraging it. And the citizens should also come out in unison to support their police, to motivate the police, support the police, so the police can perform, can serve them better. Because an unmotivated servant can never serve. Even in your house, you have a houseboy or a house girl. If you don't motivate, if you frustrate that girl, he will not give the best of her service or his service. So I think the police deserve the best, and Nigeria also deserves the best police service. And then we should have a police-friendly citizenry, not the police. Some of us place to the gallery. Nobody. You see, if we come out, let truthfulness is the foundation of all virtue. Don't be truthful to ourselves. Have we been doing well? Have we been supporting the police? I know Arise have been actually, like you said earlier, you've been actually been standing for support for the work for the police. That is good. But generally, just very few, generally. Only Wike came up. They came out boldly and say, yes, I will support the police, I will assist the police, I give to their families of the bereaved one. That's how it should be. In times, show empathy in times of distress with one of your neighbor. Let us show love, let's show compassion, let's show empathy. Let us build our police. If you build the police, fix the police, you have fixed Nigeria. If you destroy the police, you have destroyed Nigeria. But what we are suffering today is because of the long network of Nigerian police, but that's why having the consequences we are suffering today in the country.
Well, Mr. Alobi, you've cited the example of Governor Wike of Rivers State, where I live here in Lagos, and I'm aware that the governor of Lagos State has also visited the police stations that were raised down, and he has also promised to provide scholarship through the state government for the children of the policemen who lost their lives in Lagos State up to the university level. Just by way of, putting the facts out there. But there's one other thing I want to draw your attention to.
I commend the governor of Lagos State too.
There's something else I would like to draw your attention to.
Other governors should also follow suit because without police maintaining law and order in their state, they cannot have good governance in their state. Otherwise, it will be anarchy. So the governors should demonstrate, show that empathy.
Quite true. But talking about governors, Mr. Alobi, there is a committee that has been set up by the National Economic Council, led by Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo. And governors are also members of that committee. Their mandate is to look at the 5 demands by the protesters and how those 5 demands can be put in place. However, one of the things that committee is to look at is how governors can be given more powers to control the police in their states. Is the time now ripe in the light of recent experience for state police? And what kind of steps will need to be taken in the light of the provisions of Section 214 and Section 215 of the Constitution and the Police Act 2020.
You say, when you talk about control of whose interest is it for? Operationally, a governor is not a police officer. A governor don't know about an operation. What the governor needs to receive security advice from his commissioner of police. I was CPF City when El-Rufai was the minister. We worked closely, and in meeting the security committee, I will advise. I will give my advice, and then the governor needs to support me and for me to implement those security advice to ensure for the good well-being of the state. When we talk about control in what context? Operationally, what does the government know about security operations? What the government needs to be given advice by the commissioner of police and security committee. That's what the government needs. And some governors don't even, they want the commissioner of police to come cap in hand to begin to beg. I don't never beg, and I will never beg any governor. You have a governor has a duty and responsibility to ensure that he provides for his people. Was elected, and under Section 14B says the primary purpose of government is the welfare and security of the citizen. So then, if any government has failed, any government fails to do that, that governor is not worthy to be a governor. So I think the issue of control does not arise. What the government is, that is critical, strategic security advice. And it is collaboration and cooperation, understanding each other. What important is that solving security problem. Why don't they to compete? No question of who controls who. So the question of control is the point that, you see, leadership is all about who controls. Leadership is all that who serve to add value to add value to the life of the people.
But Mr. Alobi,
to empower the people. That's all leadership is all about. Not the issue of control.
Yeah,
not
Mr.
who dominates.
Mr. Alobi.
Operationally.
Okay, Mr. Alobi, let's go beyond operational control. Do you support the idea of state police as part of the attempt, to make the police in Nigeria more effective and more representative?
You see, life is evolutionary. Like a child is born, he learns how to cripple, to walk, to adulthood. We don't attain that level in Nigeria because right now Nigeria is so fragmented in terms of ethnicity. These are ethnic bigot, religious bigot, political and so forth. They look at the gap between the rich and the poor. Our politicians have not imbibed the culture of service. What they call the culture of business acquisition of wealth and power, to grab power, to grab power and business acquire wealth and property, which is business as far as I'm concerned. Life is all about service. Leadership is all about service. We adopted the American presidential system. Compare the American legislators and parliamentarians. I see the salary and the salary of our legislators in Nigeria, the same thing. We have not evolved to where we can at least say we can now say we are all Nigerians. In America, no American will tell you I'm from Texas, I'm from Atlanta, and so you tell you I'm an American. It's only when we have been able to evolve that culture of nationalism. Because that's nationhood. Every Nigerian thing about Nigeria, nothing where you come from. If somebody from Kano can assert himself in Ibadan or Enugu or Calabar, somebody from Calabar or Enugu can assert himself in Sokoto or Kano. That's where Nigerian it becomes Nigeria. Nobody come about. You just say where you come from, where we state you come from. We have not evolved where we have that Nigerian consciousness. So when we have the Nigerian consciousness, we cannot say okay, whatever you are. Let me tell you. State police, when I was a DSP, I used to be in Enugu as a PRO. With the state police during Babangida era, it was said that from the rank of DSP to constable should go back to their state. We did, it was experimented, but it never worked. Because even among the local communities, some of them have their interest in chieftaincy dispute, land dispute, and so forth. But when you are there neutral, as a police officer, you're supposed to be neutral. That was part of our ethics. So the point is that Nigeria has not arrived to that stage where we can at least have that state police. Look at our governors. Our governors see themselves like emperors. Because they're not there to serve. They just think about to grab power, grab it for their cronies and so forth. It's when we have that imbibe that culture of service. Humbling ourselves to serve the people who voted us. So it's only then we can say, okay, state police can now evolve. For now, some of us are people are just playing to the gallery. Some want to be emotional and sentimental. Emotions like a veil. It beclouds our sense of reason and sense of judgment. Let's not politicize the issue of state police. Nigerian police force under Section 217 214 the Constitution provide there shall be only one police force. Any other security outfit must be under the supervision and control of the police. All men are to promote unity. Now, our court of arms says peace and unity. What are the symbols of unity in our country? How we showing our unity in action? How we walking our talk? You know, how we demonstrating in our actions the absence of unity? We're so fragmented. Nobody cares about our unity. We just lip service. So until when our leadership by example, the leadership determines followership. When our leaders begin to show in their true sense of that leadership, not just lip service. When they show in their actions, in their appointment, look at some appointments, some nepotism in appointment and so forth. If you don't know somebody, you're nowhere. If you don't have, look at job creation, for instance. Why are the youth protesting? If you don't know somebody, you're no job. When there's an employment, the list of senators give names. Ministers give names. If you're a child of a poor man, you are nowhere. Is that a country where we're going to be good to our children? No.
Point well made,
a country where the social justice, economic justice, political justice, and we have a well-being for everyone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lawrence Alobi, former Commissioner of Police, Federal Capital Territory. Thank you for joining us. It's time now for a break here on Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show. When we return, we'll be discussing the issues raised by Mr. Alobi. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Joining me now in the studio are Professor Bola Akintenwa, Director General, Boditak Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies, Professor Victor Ariole, Professor of French and Francophone Studies at the University of Lagos, and Chike Ugea, former Commissioner for Information, Delta State. Well, thank you for showing up this week, gentlemen, and for being here again. We all listened to former Commissioner of Police, Lawrence Alobi. He sounded like a very patriotic policeman defending the interest of his constituency. And he says Nigerians should love and support policemen so that they can get the best from them. But Prof, Professor Akintenwa, let me start with you. What do you make of some of his submissions, particularly with regard to state police, with regard to self-preservation by policemen, with regard to what he called Maslow's hierarchy of needs as a way of motivating policemen, and his comments on the efforts of the Inspector General of Police to boost morale?
Since you made the good point that he was quite defensive of the police case, and I wouldn't expect anything less, so I only agree to disagree with many of the points he raised. Let's begin with the point that gratitude is a virtue, is something. Ingratitude is a sin. No, I don't subscribe to that type of hypothesis. As a trust, ingratitude can be considered a sin if the basis for gratitude itself can be justified. You only show gratitude for what has been done positively. That is good. If something is done and it's not worth showing gratitude for, why should you? Ingratitude is not just a function of perception. For instance, if we are to go with the logic of my brother, Lawrence Alobi, those who are protesting, they protested against police brutality. The question now is, has there been a case of brutality? If yes, how can you show gratitude for brutality? Why should you be thanking people for killing you? No. Ingratitude simply means that somebody has done you well, and you are not showing appreciation for what has been done very well for you. So in the case of the police, as we are looking at it, the argument is that the policemen have not done well in certain cases, and they are protesting against that. So within, grosso modo, Lawrence Alobi is now trying to say that we should appreciate the policemen, generally speaking. In that case, I will agree with him, because the policemen are trying their best. I see, especially the policemen controlling traffic under heavy sun, very inclement conditions. They are there. So I can sympathize with this argument. Now, on the issue of, for instance, policing, state policing, you asked him the question, but he tried to rationalize, giving the impression that Nigeria is not yet in the position to have state policing. He gave the example of ethnic bigotry. We are still divided. We don't have all this. And he's right. But the issue is that the situational reality in which we find ourselves is such that there will never be any comfort, ease of life, ease of policing without restructuring, which he's against. Now, when you did ask him this question, or you made the point that governors, for instance, do complain about the fact that they do not have control over the policemen, he gave us the excuse of operational rationales, saying that, in fact, he asked, what does a governor know about operational activities? I do not share his view at all. He's not reflecting the situational reality. The problem is simply that decisions are referred to the IGP in Abuja. IGP doesn't know much about what is happening in the nooks and crannies of the states. He referred to the example of what happened under IBB, Badamasi Babangida, that people were sent to their states, but it didn't work well. It is simply because the people posted to their areas, the IGP himself cannot have much time to look at the nitty-gritty. So these are the issues.
But he also talked about the need for the police to be neutral, and that under the concept of community policing and state policing, that neutrality will be defeated. But Chike, let me come to you. What do you think of some of those points with regard to, for example, self-defense? Because I thought Mr. Alobi was giving the impression that if people are aggressive towards the police also truly have a right to fight back. And all the other things he said about welfare and state police.
Well, thank you, Ruben. The truth is that I understand the place, the gentleman is coming from, being so highly emotionally charged about the events of the past, couple of weeks, which has been very unfortunate for us as a people. And yes, it's one of the greatest ironies of life that a protest that started really with the police at the heart of it. I don't think anything in my generation, in my time, has happened to bring the police to the front stage of discussion in terms of changing their welfare, improving their services, has ever been done in Nigeria the way it was done by, this NSAS protest. And it was unfortunate, somebody talked about Youth 1 and Youth 2 on the streets. I think the particular set of young people that thought through this whole 5-point agenda at that time and all of that, they really wanted to make a difference. Yes, there was a problem with an aspect of the police, not the whole of the police. And they highlighted that, like you said, maybe in their agenda number 4. But the 5th one was, please, these people are not being treated well. We have to improve their conditions of services. We have to pay them better. We have to train them better. It was all about the police. Somehow or the other, when Youth 2, the other aspect of the people that came onto the streets and met Youth 1, and it all fused together and it became a street culture. Of course, within Youth 2, that's the rank of those children that we failed to train. And those are those children that, of course, they call them various names, hoodlums, robbers, thugs, all that. They were the ones that chose the opportunity, that used the opportunity to now start going after the police. Of course, that was where everything went awry. Because we saw for some brief moments what anarchy looked like in Nigeria when we all turned left and right and there was no policeman in sight. And really and truly speaking, at that time, you can't blame them. How can you blame the people that were being killed for not taking care of you? And you saw the wanton destruction that went on all over Nigeria. You know, it now cascaded to going into this where palliatives were kept, into individual stores. I mean, I saw the Surulere part of things because I went by there the other day. I mean, my heart was broken when I saw what they did. And these are private enterprises and all of that. So, like I said, it was a pity. But really and truly speaking, what the gentleman is saying, you know, he is from, I think he's already retired. So he's obviously coming from that old school of thought that did not know any reform and does not understand that whether we like it or not, we have to go forward and reform the police force as with so many aspects of our life. Right, we come to restructuring and all that. That is not even the major issue. But a clear scenario showed up in this period where we had a situation where the governor had no control of the police, and we saw what happened. He has no control of the army, and we saw what happened. Now the army tells us that it was by his invitation. What do they mean by his invitation? He also had told us he did not invite anybody there. And we saw the issues of the curfew and all of that. So you see, all this shows that there is no clear command domiciled in the state. And that was why all this confusion was there. The attendant result of it is the kind of mayhem and the confusion we are still in, even as we speak. Because right now, nobody can tell exactly, with exactitude, what exactly happened at the toll gate.
Well, on that note, Chike, let me come to Professor Victor Ariole here. Prof, NSAS protest, police performance, police brutality, the IGP's intervention. What's your take?
Well, we can clearly see that if it were in other crimes, the IGP job is at stake here, you know, and it would have helped in really resolving the issue and thinking of how to rebrand the police. But as it is now, you see, the IGP is trying to defend himself and get Nigerians to know that he's still relevant, and that his relevance means that the people who ought to care for the police are not caring for the police. And it's a situation where the horse is giving alert or warning the horse rider that is about rough riding the owner. And that is the situation we are in Nigeria. Now, if you have the mind of the horse and it's telling you that if you don't behave very well, it's going to rough ride you, it's left for you to know what to do. Either to buckle the horse very well, and that is the rebranding process, or feed the horse very well, or take the horse to the veterinary doctor to see how best to put the horse into the mood of riding the owner right. And this is where I feel that, yes, it is necessary to allow state governors to have some control of the police. And that's what we call devolution. If it should be allowed, that would be very fine, because there is nothing wrong in having a centralized police headed by IGP, but it's still the right of the state governors to say, look, I need 100,000 police people, I need 50,000 police people, and those police people are supplied to the governor based on his capacity or her capacity to handle those police people and to take good care of them. And this is where the Maslow theory of Maslow hierarchy comes in, the need hierarchy. And when people are not physically or physiologically well taken care of course, their self-esteem will go low. And when there is no self-esteem, insecurity comes in. And that is what we are seeing pervading the whole Nigerian society. It's everywhere insecurity. Whether it is in the youth, whether it is in the police, whether it is elsewhere. People's self-esteem is now not in good shape because basically they are not well motivated to do the work towards making Nigeria a better country. It seems that everything about Nigeria centers on what politicians want on how they want it to go. But the world does not really rotate around politicians alone. There are people who work from the ground to get the top to be at a better shape. It's a pyramidal thing. The moment the bottom of the pyramid is shaky, the top will have a problem. And that's what we are facing now in Nigeria. The top, which is basically occupied by the politicians, are finding it difficult to hold because the bottom is having a problem. The bottom is having a problem because they are not psychologically, physiologically, what do you call it again, security-wise, well taken care of. The low self-esteem in the general Nigerian system is creating problem now, and it's showing.
On that point you raised, which is quite valid, when we even talk about the welfare of the place, it is not that the federal government had not been providing, had not been allocating funds. The issue is what is done with the funds provided. The people at the top have not actually
taking care of the lower ones.
So
that's what it is.
So that's the issue.
Well,
so when we are
I'm sure this conversation will continue.
They haven't taken care of the lower ones.
This cannot be the end of it. We'll continue to focus on it. But let's take another subject very quickly. Following last week's objection by the United States of America over the selection of Dr. Okonjo-Iweala as the next Director General of the World Trade Organization, WTO, member countries of the Geneva-based institution are now confronted with the reality that the future of the global trade body is now in the hands of the American electorate, as it were. Acting unilaterally, the United States decided to back the South Korean contender and trade minister, Ms. Yoo Hyung-hee, despite the overwhelming support from other countries for Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Nigeria's former finance minister. The turn of events have led many members of the WTO to suggest that if President Donald Trump loses the presidential election come Tuesday, they should postpone the selection process until after former Vice President Joe Biden is inaugurated on January 20th next year. However, a Trump win will give the U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer fresh momentum to re-engineer oversight of global trade rules. According to people close to Lighthizer, he views Okonjo-Iweala, a longtime former top official at the World Bank, as being too ideologically aligned with internationalists like Robert Zoellick, a former president of the World Bank, under the George Bush administration. The U.S. is also enamored by Hyung-hee's track record, having represented our country in WTO trade negotiations. Nonetheless, for WTO members, there are few desirable options if Trump emerges victorious in this week's election. Most are unwilling to back the South Korean candidate who has decided to remain in the race, even after the WTO selection panel named Okonjo-Iweala as the candidate that had attracted consensus support from WTO members. Given the seeming impasse created by the U.S., what are the options available to the WTO as it seeks to conclude the process of appointing a new Director General? What must Nigeria and Africa do to ensure that the overwhelming support for Okonjo-Iweala is not eroded over the next few days or even weeks? Chike, let me start with you. The questions have already been raised.
Yeah, the argument is simple. I think Okonjo-Iweala is being knocked, and you know, there's a school of thought that is saying that she doesn't have enough experience in trade negotiations and all of that. And I said, how can anybody ever said that about that lady? She's a developmental economist. And what is development in economics if it's not about trade? She was anyway a coordinating minister of an economy, the biggest economy in Africa, and she was also the minister of finance, which made the customs, you know, which are the areas, the major areas of trade and all of that report to her. All the major, you know, revenue accruing agencies of government, they all report to the Ministry of Finance. So that, to my mind, does not hold water at all. Really, I don't understand, you know, the politics of America in all of this, because she's been in Washington, she's been in the Bretton Woods institution for such a long time that I thought they even saw her as one of their best. You know, whether she has dual citizenship or not is not even the issue. And I was really surprised because don't forget, Arise had broken the news more or less that, you know, the selection had been done. And then America comes into this thing and starts to oppose it. But the great thing about this is not like the UN system where America has a veto power and all of that. I think at the end of the day, like you said, I think Nigeria should just stay engaged. Our president has been doing the right thing, leading the charge here. I think he has the whole of Africa with him, so he should keep them. And he's also with the European Union, who obviously backs her bid as well. So if we keep switched on and we keep and we hold these people down, I guess Ngozi's intimidating credentials will speak for itself, and she will clinch the job. I don't even mind whether Trump wins or Trump loses. That's not an issue. That is American private and internal affairs. I don't see how that should affect her. They tried this in the ADB thing with Adesina, if you remember, and it didn't work out. And I predict that the same situation will happen. And come, I think, is it November 7th or is it 9th? I don't know when the date is. I can assure you Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala will be the next Director General of the World Trade Organization, and she deserves to be. She has every requisite experience to handle that job, so I don't know what anybody's talking about.
Thank you, Chike. Professor Areole, let me come to you on this subject.
Well, this does not really, has nothing to do with whether Trump wins or Trump does not win, really. It's not a United Nations, of course, where America has veto. But I think America wants to make a statement. You know, I read in FT, Kissinger, former Secretary of United States, saying that it is high time the world started rejigging or resetting the trade rules. And he was completely disturbed that resetting it at this time, when Trump is the president, could be very, 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 very dangerous and rough for everybody. And it's exactly what we are seeing. America just want to make a statement that the tenure will be very, very, very rough if Okonjo-Iweala is taken in as the DG. It's not that Okonjo-Iweala will not survive it. Of course, he will survive it, but it's going to be very rough because up to today, America sees itself being marginalized by those there to a point that Roberto, that just stepped down a year before his own tenure ending, has shown that, yes, they have been dancing to the tune of China. And all these things is about trade settlement mechanism, you know, how best to go about those settlement issues. And it seems it's not favoring America. And they seem to feel bad about it because the trade balance is not favoring them also. And according to speculations or how people say it in America, during Obama time, it was so favorable to China that there is a need to do something about it. And the lady from South Korea who is contending with Okonjo-Iweala is just a greenhorn. Everybody knows about it. But it's not a woman of the establishment. Woman of the establishment in the sense that Okonjo-Iweala has been many times vice president of World Bank and even managing director of the World Bank, which makes Okonjo-Iweala an establishment person. And everybody knows what Trump stands for. Anything about establishment, he's not willing to really hear about it, just like he says. So he would like a greenhorn person who possibly will dance to the tune of USA. But the point remains that WTO is not a USA sole affair.
Well,
and so
right.
it's not going to be all that clear.
All right. Paragraph 20 of the Rules of Procedure for choosing WTO DG says there could be a last recourse to voting. And when that voting takes place, if it does, it is one country, one vote. That's right. But Professor Akintera, do you still think in spite of all of this, the U.S. will still have its way, considering the fact that this is also at the end about the conflict between the U.S. and China?
It is not possible at this particular material time for the United States to have its say and have its way. It's not possible. It's just dreaming. There are 6 main issues involved. The first one is a competing, sovereignty. We are talking about competing nationality. Okonjo-Iweala is both a Nigerian and an American. And as an American, when citizenship is given to you, you must make a note. You decide on note that your allegiance will be to the United States.
Except that she was fielded by Nigeria. Her candidature is from Nigeria.
No, that's why we call the theory of effective nationality. Which one is more effective? On the basis of international law, determination will be on which nationality is more effective. So in this case, 2019 now, as a citizen of the US, and as rightly pointed out by Shike and Victor, now the issue is that you have a situation whereby America is against Nigeria's strong relationship with China. The United States is trying, according to Donald Trump, to bring back the status of the United States, making America great again. All right? They know, the Americans are now saying, 2017 it was made clear that Russia and China are now trying to redefine the new world order. It's not in the interest of the US. Now you now have an Okonjo-Iweala, who in 2012, for the first time in the previous 25 years, now decided to contest for the position, of the head of the World Bank. The assumption, the acquiescence, is that the United States will always provide, the president of the bank. But Okonjo-Iweala was seen to have the effrontery of now trying to compete and challenge the Americans. So this time now, the Americans are now saying, if we do have an Okonjo-Iweala as the DG, this troublemaker who had the sagacious mind, who is forthright to the extent now that she will be able to challenge and throw away to the dustbin whatever pretensions the Americans will be having. It will not be in their interest. As a matter of fact, if you look at it, we go down the memory lane, you will discover that the United States has always been against, anything that is in the interest of Africa, developing countries, Americans will be against. Why should it be so? They know quite well that Okonjo-Iweala will be there to defend Africa, and that's why they don't want her there.
And we also be independent-minded.
Yes,
well, thank you very much, Professor Ariole, Professor Akinterewa, and Chike Ogea. You've been watching Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show here on Arise News.